I'm gonna try a backflip. I don't think I want to snowboard anymore.
Getting towed in by a little Honda Civic, going 40 miles an hour. The cop showed up. Well, we can't really tell you not hitting a 30 cliff when you're 12 years old because your brother says it's good to go. Lower Flagstaff by himself. I think MSP or someone was doing a shoot up there and they had like knocked half the jump down. 2.5 hours to get up to the ski hill. And by that time, I only had 45 minutes to ride. That's how much I love skiing. He could do this for a living. I like sold my laptop and a last minute plane ticket was like $1,400. I'm some 17-year-old kid. I'm in the middle of nowhere, Argentina, and don't know a lick of Spanish.
If you've been thinking about getting your car detailed, protected, or completely transformed, you need to check out Lux Automotive. They specialize in paint protection film, ceramic coatings, window tint, vinyl wraps, paint correction, and premium detailing. All done with insane attention to detail. Utah roads and weather can absolutely destroy your paint, and Lux helps protect your investment while keeping your car looking brand new. Whether it's your daily driver, weekend car, or something exotic, their team does incredible work and the results speak for themselves. Visit luxautomotive.com or use the link in the show notes to learn more. If you've been thinking about buying or selling a home in Utah, you should talk to Spencer Ford. The market here moves fast, and having someone who actually knows the neighborhoods, pricing trends, and how to negotiate can make a huge difference. Spencer works with buyers, sellers, and people just trying to figure out what their next move should be. Whether you're looking for your first place, upgrading, downsizing, or just curious what your home could sell for, he's someone I'd recommend reaching out to. You can find a link to get in touch with him and his email in the show notes below. And when you reach out, let him know you heard about him on Small Lake City. Well, my girlfriend is like very much like a very cold person.
Yeah.
And so like anytime I'm like, oh, I'm cold, I'm like, oh, she's like dying.
She's freezing. Yeah.
But thankfully it's like, I mean, when you're in a crowd and like everyone's there and you're like kind of motivated to be there, I mean, have a beer or two, then hopefully like warms up, but still, I mean, still rather be in shorts and a t-shirt.
Yeah. Yeah. The artists that on Saturday that I really wanted to see were like people I was into in like middle school and high school.
Yeah.
Like Clap Your Hands and Say Yeah and Queller. And it's like just in alternative groups. And I like, it was fun to see them. You know?
Well, it's like wild with like the Kilby lineup because like last year I had the same experience with Justice as I did this year with the XX. Because like with Justice, it was on Sunday, it was the last day. I was like exhausted and I was like, oh, we'll see. Like I can name a couple songs, but like it's so almost like high school, early college. We'll see.
Yeah.
And it ended up being the best set of the entire weekend. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I almost missed that.
Yeah.
And then this weekend is the XX. I was like, all right, like I know the intro that everybody knows. That was in like every video on YouTube for like 5 years. And then they start playing like, oh. And then I didn't realize. So the bassist, Ronnie, like when I was listening to it, like I was like, oh, she would actually collab really well with one of my favorite music artists right now, Fred again. And then I get home, my girlfriend's like, she shows me her phone, and it's like on her Instagram, and it's her and Fred again. I was like, wait, Rami. And then I pull up like, oh, they've done like 3 or 4 songs together.
Oh, really?
And so just like one of those, like, of course it's something I would know, like that I would enjoy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's like cool too, because like the artists that are there, like people who experienced them when they were in their prime are like, I mean, 10 years removed. So it's like easily like 30 or 40s, but then you have that are coming back around. So it's like relevant to younger people. Like it was cool. I was sitting in, I think it was Modest Mouse. I was behind this guy and his dad, or the dad and his son, I guess I should say. And he's kind of like talking to me. He's like, hey, like, just, kind of stand here, like stand your ground. Like, don't just kind of like let people push you around. Like, sit in your space. It was kind of just fun having this father-son moment. And then mom showed up with a beer and like, they were kind of laughing. And like, I see dad, like kind of, I could tell like the dad was just like in his moment of like, my family's here. We're at a concert. So he pulls out his phone. He's like, hey, like honey and like son, go take a picture. Like, give me your phone. Like, here we go. Like, and I'm someone who, if you give me, like, I'll always be on the like look out for people who are like trying to take a picture. I'm like, give me your phone. Like, give it to me.
Yeah.
And so I was like, give it to me. And I always try to take like good pictures. And so I take some, and he looks, he's like, oh, like actually, thank you. Like these are good. I'm like, yeah, of course. A great moment for the family. Let's do it.
No, it was so fun seeing Modest Mouse. I mean, just a band that, we listened to a bunch when we were younger, and, it still holds. Their music is so good still.
Yeah, just as good as it was.
It's fun. It like makes me a little envious of being a musician, like they're still doing tours, even though they're, they're probably like late 40s, 50s,
Yeah.
I don't know how old those guys are, but
He's definitely, I was trying to like, cause I was watching him and I was like, wait, like I was trying to peg it too without looking it up. And I don't think I ever did because ADHD, but like definitely in his like late 40s, early 50s, I would say.
Yeah.
But still having the time of his life.
oh, it looked so fun.
Yeah.
And like just to be able to like hit the road. And it was crazy for me to hear about how many people were flying out for Kilby. I didn't know it was such a big scene. That was actually my first time going.
Yeah. I went, this is the second year. Cause like I always wanted to go, but I always talk myself out of, I'm like, oh, do I really want to pay X amount of $100 for this, blah, blah, blah. But I think they like partnered with SNS on it. And it was fun. Like, so my girlfriend was actually flying back from a conference in New Mexico this week, and she was getting on the plane to come here, and there was someone in a Kilby shirt. She's like, oh, are you going? She's like, yeah, oh my gosh, like it's going to be like amazing festival. And so again, like I think of it so much of like the Salt Lake Festival than like an Austin City Limits or like, I mean, some of these hallmark ones around the country that everybody travels for.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you're like, oh, like people are still doing this and they put on a great show and it's like a great time. And of course they would.
Yeah. And it's reasonable for a big 3-day festival.
Yeah.
Like it's really not that expensive.
No.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know. I love it. Like it hit me this year when I was leaving on Sunday. Like it's just so Salt Lake and it like, you couldn't make it more Salt Lake if you tried.
Yeah.
Like, just like the vibes that are there, the people that are there, the music that's there, kind of like everybody there together. Like
Yeah.
Time.
Yeah. It's such a fun show.
Yeah. Well, Thayne, I'm excited to talk to you because there's certain people I've had on the podcast that are, I mean, let's call it like, I think you're probably, of guests I've had, the one I've known second longest. If you're trying to keep up with everything life throws at you, work, workouts, long runs, rounds of golf, whatever it might be, having your nutrition dialed matters. That's why I use Gnarly Nutrition, from supporting my recovery to fueling performance and helping me feel good no matter what I've got going on. And even better, they're located right here in Utah. Whether you're in the gym, on the trail, or just trying to get through your day, Gnarly has you covered. Check them out through the link in the description to see why they've become part of my daily routine. And the other one's like the person who's like, I can't remember memories without him, was John Darley, who I like grew up in the avenues before I moved down to like the Harvard Yale area.
Yep.
And like with you, I mean, I've known you since I was 10 years old. And actually you are part of the reason I went from skiing to snowboarding and then was like, we need to go back to skiing.
Yeah.
And so, but there's also these people who I have like this history and context with. There's kind of like this understanding of like this, like I see your story, like I see you posting, I see your clips, I see your sections, I see like the broad strokes, but I don't know like the details of it. And so it's fun to be able to sit down and be like, now hold on, like I went to college and did like all these things. Meanwhile, like you're ripping, traveling the world, having time, making homies and like chasing the dream.
Yeah. Yep.
And so I'm so for context, so Thayne and I grew up in kind of like the Harvard Yale area over by East High School. And I mean, I know him and his family. I used to spend so much time jumping on his tramp in the backyard, watching ski movies in his basement, going to the skate park on our rollerblades, going to, I mean, Fairmont to Park City tonight, and like every single thing you could imagine.
Yeah.
And like the first memory I have of you is like when I first moved to that neighborhood after my parents split up. And I remember, I think it was Brandon, because he was one of the first people I met. He's like, hey, me and Thayne are going to go up to Bonneville Golf Course, and there's like this little jump, and we're just going to hit it on our skis. And I was like, okay. And like, I kind of like brought my snowboard, was like kind of embarrassed. And I remember you like, before we left, you're like, I'm going to try a backflip. And I was like, kind of like he's going to do it. And then it was like that day, I was like, I don't think I want to snowboard anymore. But then, I mean, Salt Lake's weird. Like Salt Lake's always interesting because everybody skis. Like people that move here is like, oh, I snowboard. I'm like, for now.
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, they kind of move on.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny growing up. Like it was like, I mean, and I think there was more like hate from snowboarders to skiers back in the day. And, obviously the older generation skiers like really dislike snowboarders. But I think for like kind of my generation, like it didn't really matter. We were all out there just sliding down the snow, having fun.
Totally.
But yeah, the Bonneville golf course days, like that was a pretty freaking hilarious time. We would, anytime there was snow, we would just go up there, 10 to 8 to 14 years old, we would go build those jumps up there. And I mean, I have so many memories there. And hitting those little like retaining walls off like number one tee that are like 10 feet to flat, like dead flat, like just blowing out your knees as a young kid.
like hurts me to think about now.
I know. Yeah.
Well, then it's like wild too, because like growing up in that time in that neighborhood was kind of crazy and the weird, like, because do you remember when they would build the jumps like out front of the church and like they'd make these big jumps and like tow people in, and then they'd like like cut them up in chainsaws and move them when they got in trouble. It
Yeah.
was just like this kind of like wild time of that, and like also up in like Donner Park, I think they would do the same.
Yeah. So that was all my older brother and his friends.
That's what I was gonna ask,
Yeah.
because like you're the youngest of the oldest sister, and then Colson, Eric, Jesse, and then you.
Yeah.
And I feel like it was always that, like, because they all skied to an extent, but you were like the little one keeping up, but like keeping up.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I attribute like all of my skiing to my brother Eric, honestly. Well, like, obviously my parents getting me started when I was 2 years old. But my brother was the one that really pushed me to kind of huck stuff and go for it. But yeah, that was a fun era. You know, they weren't, I actually just came across their old like VHS
No way.
from like when they were in high school and building all these jumps up Grizzly Gulch. But yeah, that whole chart, like church, big gap jump, getting towed in by a little Honda Civic, you know, like going 40 miles an hour. And yeah, having to cut it down because they got in trouble, and then they just moved it up to Donner. And, you know, the cops showed up and they're like, well, we can't really tell you not to, like, it's a park.
Yeah.
You know, like, just don't like spray paint the speed bump sign, or like,
Yeah.
you know, they were concerned about us them vandalizing. But I remember I wanted to hit that jump so bad, but my dad showed up and he was like, nope. I mean, I was probably only like 11 or 12 years old, but watching my brother and his friends hit it looked so fun. You know, throwing a bunch of leaf bags on the back of the gap jump, and
Yeah, it's safe.
yeah, safe-ish,
Yeah.
you know? Yeah. But like just trying to like tag along with him and his friends growing up, like that was the biggest reason that got me into like extreme skiing.
Are there any moments in particular then that you remember of being like, I need to do this. Like, I want my brother to think I'm cool, that you just, we were just like doing it and like either like getting that approval from them or like landing something. You're like, all right, like,
Yeah, I mean, I think that was kind of what I lived for back then. Like my brother and his friends used to hang out at our house all the time, you know, jumping on the trampoline and, you know, just doing silly, you know, games in the yard. Like I remember this one game, it was so silly looking back, but I loved it just because I got a lot of attention from my older brother and his friends. It was just called the tripping game. And they would just line up in two lines and I just run through the middle and they would just like trip the hell out of me. And it was just like fun because I was being cool with the cool guys, you know, the cool older brother and his friends.
Amazing.
Yeah. But there was a lot of times in skiing where it was, you know, like we would be skiing around and he'd be like, all right, I'm going to hit this cliff. Like, you don't have to. And
of course you're not be like, okay, see you at the
but
bottom.
then,
you know, like,
yeah. But like he would hit it and he's like, dude, it's good. Like, go for it. And like, that's what got me like hitting big stuff when you're fearless little kid, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, hitting a 30-foot cliff when you're 12 years old because your brother says it's good to go.
Yeah. You're like, oh, if he said it's like,
Yeah.
it always reminds me, like if someone were to tell me, like if I were to move to Utah today and it's wintertime, like, hey, just get a pass, like you'll figure it out, like go ski, I would be fucking terrified. I'll be like, oh, we're just gonna get off on the top of this mountain and just go slide down on these like, like, but it's so fun of like growing up, like, cause my grandpa's saying was, if you can walk, you can ski. And so like, I was always in diapers, like just skiing. And like, we just kind of just went because that's all we knew. Cause our grandpa would just take us and go do it.
Yep.
And then now it's like, I have friends and they're like, oh, I can't do this and this. Cause I'm like, and then part of me is like, what do you mean? You just got like, what are you scared of? Just go.
Yeah.
But I love that you have these brothers who like, it's not like they didn't look out for you. It's not like they're like, oh, let's see if we can get Thayne to do this. Oh, he got hurt. Like, don't tell mom, you know,
Yeah.
But it's like, hey, like you can do this.
Yep.
And like almost like this older brother supportive love of like, you can do this. And then you did. And then
Yeah.
you
He
did
wasn't,
this one.
he was never like trying to get me to do something ridiculous, but, we definitely did some rowdy stuff when I was maybe a little too young. I mean, whatever. I never got like seriously injured, but, you know, we had hit lower Flagstaff Gap when I was like 13 years old.
Yeah. Cause like, let's talk about that for a second. Cause growing up in that era of like Chad's Gap and Pyramid and Flagstaff and like these huge jumps that like it was before really, let's call it like the government or like people knew what was going on. So they could be like,
Yeah.
hey, we're going to destroy this. Or like, hey, don't do this.
Yeah.
Because most people are like, yeah, we're just going to go up Grizzly. Like, don't ask any questions.
I think it was, yeah, just pre-social media, really.
Yeah.
Like, because, you know, every year we would get all the ski films and I would watch them religiously.
Yeah.
And the access in Little Cottonwood Canyon is insane. And it's like, you can see all these iconic jumps that, you know, you watch in every film of every year back then.
Yeah.
But I remember when I was younger, I was like, all right, I want to go hit all these jumps. And there was this one afternoon, we were just skiing up at Alta, and one of my brother's friends had gone up there and built lower Flagstaff by himself.
Okay.
I think MSP or someone was doing a shoot up there, and they had like knocked half the jump down. But he went up there and he rebuilt it, and you know, and it was always scary for me because, you know, I was probably only weighing like 100 pounds. And so like getting speed for these big jumps with, you know, all that wind drag and everything. But yeah, we ended up like hitting it a few times. And like, I remember just being, it was the scariest thing, you know, by far the scariest thing I've ever, it's 100-foot gap to the wall.
Yeah.
And it's a big gully, you got an icy wall.
And you do not want to be short.
No. Yep. And so, you know, this guy had salted it. It was actually prepped really well. So, it went pretty smoothly, you know, like got 360 over it. And this is like pre us even like filming stuff.
Like, how old are you in that moment?
I think I was 12 or 13.
That's insane. Like, cause like I was always the key. Cause like I was always a park rat, especially in like high school and college. And like, I was the kid who's like, oh yeah, like I'll 360 the jump, maybe 5, maybe 7. But then it's like, all right, like, cause my experience with skiing when I got older was so weird because like one of my really good friends was Kai, and I'd go up to Park City on the weekends. I'd hang out with Park City kids, and I'd come back down and go to school and be kind of this like rinse and repeat.
Yeah.
But then like a lot of those guys, like, I mean, there's X Games gold medalists in there. There's Olympians, and like it's just such like a different caliber. And so I'd be like the jump down line in Park City and be like, oh, I can 360. Like, yeah, I think I'm gonna do like a dub 10. I'm like, cool. Like,
yeah,
see at the bottom.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
But like to be the person where you're doing like spinning over huge gaps.
Yeah.
Especially when you're like, oh, like this kid's pretty small.
Yeah.
We hope he can make it.
Yeah. No, I mean, it was, I mean, and I feel pretty, you know, fortunate, you know, it was so affordable here in Utah when we were younger to be able to get multiple season passes.
It's insane now.
So like, you know, I had a few years where I was like pretty much strictly Park City, you know, back in the day when King's Crown jumps were humongous and you'd see a lot of live flights out every weekend.
And that's the thing. Like I always think back on it, and part of me is like, oh, well, they weren't that big. I was just a kid, and they looked big. But then I've like gone back on YouTube and seen some. I'm like, those were huge.
They were humongous.
Yeah,
yeah, and they don't build jumps like that for the public anymore.
No,
just too big of a liability. But to have that for a few years, and I was definitely the black sheep up there.
Yeah,
you know, I'd go skiing with my brother. But like all the kids that were kind of my age and like definitely park skiers and been doing it for longer than I had, like they had baggy clothes. I was a pretty like hesh little kid, you know, I had like tight pants and, you know, wider skis, but I really am, you know, fortunate that I was like able to like go and like learn all these tricks on those big jumps, perfect park jumps. When I was young, and it didn't, you know, not so much consequence if you crash.
I always like, that's always eye-opening to me, because like whenever someone who like big backcountry, big mountain skier, I mean, again, used to hitting big jumps in the backcountry where your in-run's kind of sketchy, especially like, and then you're like, oh, well, I'm trying to like go switch off this. You're like, that's even sketchier. And we just built this jump. Maybe we've hit it 2 or 3 times because there's really only so many times you can hit it.
Yeah.
And being like, okay, cool. Like, and we need to get a clip. So it's like, I guess I'm going to like do something after doing maybe a 360 once, like a straight air, and then be like, all right, cool. Like now go do something.
Yeah.
And then they come into the park, they're like, it's so nice just to have a perfectly made jump and a perfect landing. And I know exactly how fast to go and just enjoy it.
And it's funny now, like, cause my brother started working up at Alta. They used to have a train park. And so once he started working up there, I kind of made the full switch, skiing Alta full time. Like I still had a Park City pass, but like Alta is such a fun freestyle mountain with so many like hidden features and like it's really playful. I kind of stopped skiing park so much. Like I still will get a few park days pretty much every season.
Yep.
But I have a harder time now with a perfectly manicured jump. Like I want it to be a little janky or a little, a little shitty on the takeoff. And for some reason, I'm more comfortable.
That's wild to me.
I know, it's so weird.
Take the devil you know or the devil you don't.
Yeah.
But, okay, so you start to really like lean into and that was a nice thing too, going back to like passes is I remember growing up in like high school, I would have a Park City pass and an Alta pass because each were like maybe $100. Mm-hmm. And it's like, oh, if it's not a powder day, we'll go to Park City. We'll just go do laps all day, go do a couple groomers, go get lunch at Mid-Mountain, some celery, salt fries, and like you're happy as could be.
Yeah.
But then it's like, oh, it snowed. Like mom's picking up at Alta today. Can your mom drop off? Like, and it was so fun. Like when you saw the storms really coming in and like those were the powder days.
Yeah.
But then there's so many people that are just like, yeah, like, I don't necessarily like park as much, but go do that. And then it's the people that just like rip around Alta, have a great time, and it's like so fun.
Yeah.
So you start going to Alta more. I mean, at what point were you? Because like there had to be a point where you're like, oh, like I can kind of do something with this. Like I know what I'm doing, and people like look at me, follow me, appreciate me.
Yeah. I think it was. I mean, at first it was just my full passion. Like I live for skiing. Like. In middle school, I think I started to really like get a lot better. And
were you filming a lot then, or was it mostly just
not really? Like we were filming. There's got to be so much footage floating around of like old, young
couple DE tapes here. And
yeah.
Just
like I don't know what ever happened to a lot of that footage, but I was trying to make like promo videos every year because like I had buddies like Karsten Oliver and like Jordan Selden and people that were down to like go build jumps in the backcountry, like not just my brother. And I was trying to make like little promo videos every year. And I'd had a lot of help from friends because I'm pretty bad with computers and editing software and stuff like that. So,
but every crew, like it, and especially in that time, like it's like that weird time of new schoolers where there's like kind of like these like crews that got established.
Yeah.
And every crew would have like the filmer and videographer, like an editor.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like, you're not like even thinking about, and the one that comes to mind is like 4x9 and Evan Heath, like he was the guy.
Yeah.
And you would just see Evan Heath, like anyway, like at Park City doing laps with them. You're like, yeah. He's the filmer and editor.
Yep. And I didn't really have that. Like there was this crew up at Alta, they were around my same age, but they kind of had established their crew already. Like they had grown up together, and I kind of liked rolling with my brother and his friends and like kind of an older crowd anyways.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we started and so in middle school I had Mr. Young, 8th grade science, like
classic.
So I had him for TA and for science class, like after lunch. And so I talked to him, he's such a good guy. He's like a friend.
Like, listen,
now.
I'm going to go skiing.
Yeah.
And you're going to act like this didn't happen.
Exactly. And he was such a nice guy, and he could tell how passionate I was for skiing. And I was a good student, so like I would make up for it before, I'd skip out on class, but I lived up the road, like, I don't know, maybe a mile, like up on Foothill, mile and a half. So I would sprint home, like as soon as lunch hit, I would sprint home, get all my ski stuff, come down to Foothill, take the bus. I'd have to transfer 2 times and it would, I'd get up there, but it would take me close to 2.5 hours to get up to the ski hill. And by that time I only had 45 minutes to ride. And so I had 2.5 hours home. Like that's how much I love skiing.
What a grind.
And because I did that, I think it got me to a level, freshman, sophomore year where we were having family dinner and my brother's like, can you lay off of him? Cause I started getting shortened schedule in high school and my brother Eric was like, he could do this for a living. And he's like, do you ever regret like not doing 100% your passion? And so my parents kind of like, let me do that.
Because like your parents are awesome. Like I know your
my parents are gems. Yeah. They're the best people. And they were, after that, they were like pretty supportive. They were like, okay, like, and I was a good student. Like I said, like if I was in class, like I would be there 100%. I would focus, I had like a 3.9 at the end of high school.
Yeah.
And with like some AP classes and stuff.
It's hard if you're a parent. It's not like you're like, well, the reason you can't do this because you're doing bad here. It's like, well, until the wheels come off, like,
yeah,
cool.
Yeah. And the thing is that like, I mean, I feel like high school, it's not that hard. If you show up and pay attention and assert yourself, like it was pretty easy for me to like keep up good grades and make it so that my parents weren't pissed, getting shortened schedules. And so like by junior and senior year, I was skiing almost every afternoon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, at what point did it start to really come together? Whether it be, I mean, you working on these promo videos and getting like calls back or people reaching out to you, or even just like community validation, be like, oh, you're Thayne, right? Like, oh, sick.
Yeah. I mean, that's about all I had was community validate,
but it's like, if there's a community to get validated in, it's like that one.
Yeah. No. And I just remember like, skiing with Sage, Catabriga, Losa growing up, and like Pep Fugis and, a lot of these pro skiers that live here in Utah. And when they were, giving me validation and, I was getting, I got sponsored and was getting free skis.
Who's your first sponsor?
Surface.
Okay.
Yep.
The Surface days were great too.
Yeah. I like the owners a lot, and I like those skis. The product wasn't quite there.
The only ski I've blown an entire binding out of after like 2 months. Anyway, that's a whole nother topic. But
yeah. Yeah. But yeah, so I was sponsored, and I was like going on some little trips with Jordan Selden and Blake Nyman. But I never like, I would just film with whoever, and then I would like get all the footage and have like my cousin Warner or
because Warner knows what he's doing. He's like,
yeah. Or Michael Brown was a huge help growing up as well. But then when I was 17, I kind of went on my first big ski trip.
Where was that to? Tell me about that.
That was Argentina. And
how'd you get the invite, or like what was the build up to like, hey, here's your boarding pass, see you on this day?
Yeah, no, it was fully like Michael Brown. So Michael Brown he's a part owner and filmer, director, producer for Sweetgrass Productions.
Okay.
So we were shooting for Solitude. That was the name of the film.
Okay. I was
yeah, no. So it was down in Argentina, and he calls me super last minute, and he's like, "Hey, we need an athlete down in Bariloche, like over the weekend. Like, can you make it happen?" And I was like, "Here's my green light," and like, so I like sold my laptop. I like, got rid of a lot of stuff so that I could. I mean, the last minute plane ticket was like $1,400, and I'm some 17-year-old kid. So I got down there, and it was, such a last minute ticket. It was a 40-hour flight. So I flew to LA, 9-hour layover, and then flew to JFK, and then down to Buenos Aires. And then I had a 15-hour bus ride from there. And so it was a lot. I had never really, we had done a couple like little Mexico trips, like right over the border with my family, but I'd never traveled alone.
How old were you again?
I was 17.
That's insane.
Yeah. It was
like, even me as like a 35-year-old adult to be like, all right, you're going to go travel to Argentina alone. I'd be like, I know I can do it, but like, I'm a little apprehensive to be like, oh, pre-smartphones, like a lot of things.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
All right, well, hopefully you end up there and don't die.
Yep. And I just remember like, I was just like, all right, well, I'm going to meet up with Michael, someone who he's not messing around, and but he was actually in Chile at the time, so I was gonna show up, and like someone from the crew was gonna pick me up at the bus station. So I fly down there, it's crazy long travel day, 2 days, almost 2.5 days. And I get to the bus station and I
Just hoping someone's there.
I don't
too.
have, I don't have any sort of like my cell phone doesn't work down there. My computer, like I have the info on there of like who's coming to pick me up or like what hostel we're staying in. But my computer's dead and I don't have an adapter because they have different chargers down there. And so I'm just like, all right, I'm just going to like sit and wait. And I wait a couple hours and I'm starting to get a little nervous because I'm in the middle of nowhere, Argentina, and don't know a lick of Spanish. And I asked the guy at the station, like, is there a list of like all the hostels? And, you know, he gives me this list. There's got to be like 40 hostels on here. I think I see one that like looks familiar and I'm like, okay, I'm just going to like go for it. Start loading up on this taxi and this sweet lady like comes up and she speaks English and she's like, do you know where you're going? Like, you seem like you're stressed out. You don't. And she's like, you shouldn't, if you're not 100% certain that's the hostel, you shouldn't go. So I take all my stuff off and then I'm waiting for like another hour. And sure enough, someone comes in and was just like, hey, are you Thayne? And so we load up my stuff and it was a completely different hostel. So I would have been like across town without.
And like not meeting that guy, not having a way to connect.
Exactly. Wow. So, yeah, I mean, that was a huge trip for me. Like the snow actually ended up not being very good, but like the mountains were super beautiful. We like toured back to this like really epic refugio, like little cabin in the backcountry. And then like I just turned 18 while I was down there. So it's like pretty fun to go to like
happy birthday
to bars down there and, you know, have some, you know, little like bar scene vibes for the first time. But yeah, that was like the first big trip. Nothing really happened about it, but
were you like, who were the other athletes there? Were there people that like, was it another one of those like big brother moments where you're like, oh shit, I'm filming with so-and-so and so-and-so? Like,
yeah, it actually was, it was just, I'm pretty sure athlete wise, it was just me and this guy, Aiden Sheehan, who's from Colorado.
Okay.
And he ended up being like a super fun kid. Like we were about the same age. And so like we were going out and like, you know, like we were trying to get stuff done out there, but the snow was like actually really terrible.
There's only so much you can do with it.
But we were like getting up, doing early morning tours. We were building these jumps into crappy snow. But it was just an awesome trip, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then that kind of rolled into Sweetgrass is probably one of their most famous films, like Valhalla. I was able to get in with them, mainly shooting like up in British Columbia.
Okay. So imagine you got some clips there enough. They're like, hey, like we're going up to Whistler, Vancouver, somewhere, or like, want to come tag along? You're like, yes, just like, can we maybe travel together or like, help me out a little bit?
Yeah. No, I mean, it wasn't as bad on the way back. I think I was traveling back with Aiden, which made it way more mellow. But I remember just being like pretty overwhelmed, you know, just as a kid, never traveling together or like traveling alone. And but yeah, that was kind of the whole start of it. And then right out of high school, I got sponsored by Forefront, and they used to make a film every year, and so I was filming with them a bunch, which was nice.
What was your first like feature film part that you're like, it's not just like, okay, here's like the montage clips of Thayne. It's like, all right, time to plan for a whole section. I
think that like I felt pretty privileged to like be a part of that Valhalla movie. They worked super hard, and I definitely had a lot of good clips, but I think it wasn't till I had some good Forefront years too, where we went pretty hard just for their film.
Yeah.
But I think the first year was when I was 24. I'd been traveling around a little bit with like Carl Fosfed, John Ware, Tim McChesney,
homies.
And Tom Walsh started Good Company.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's about
you know, I was with that kind of backcountry crew while they were doing like more street stuff, like Tom and them. But I got invited to do like a full winter filming with Good Company, and the deal was is that I brought, like, I didn't have sponsors paying, so I brought on a second filmer, but the filmer actually bailed, and we were going up to Canada, and Carl was just like, dude, screw it, just come up here, we'll get like footage, and like if they don't want to put it in the film, they don't, but like you'll get the footage so that you can use it or whatever.
Yeah.
But I ended up having, we had a killer season. We had perfect snow everywhere we went. Just unreal conditions. And so I was posted up in my buddy's camper in the Revelstoke parking lot for like a month and a half.
Amazing.
And then I ended up getting invited to go heli skiing with Level 1 while I was up there. Someone had gotten injured and they're like, hey, we need to fill a seat. I'm like, Thayne, do you want to come? And so last minute invite, but I was already up there, so it was convenient. And then I just had like 2 of the scariest but most epic days of skiing in my life. And that opened the door for Level 1. And then so I was shooting with both those productions. Like for Level 1, it was like the last 6 films I was filming with them.
Damn.
Yeah.
Because I mean, that was like those years of skiing, like that creme de la creme of like, where, I mean, Tom Wallish and like 4x9 guys have like went from, hey, we're these guys from the East that are just mobbing around Park City and like doing things that people like haven't seen before in ways that no one ever does, to then getting like all of this industry validation. And then all of a sudden they become like one of, like, Tom's like, hey, I'm going to do my own ski production thing. Everyone's like, yeah, of course you are. And makes sense. So like to have all of these things come together around that. And then, I mean, Level 1 is Level 1. And like,
yeah,
like to have all those things come together. But it's also so interesting to hear, because like, I feel like you keep having this experience from the beginning of, I mean, your ski career till then, where it's almost like this little brother, big brother relationship, where it's like, hey, like we had someone back out, do you want to come? Or, hey, like we have space for here, can you make it work? Or just show up, and like being invited and being like, hey, like if I, like, as long as I can get onto this stage and actually have a chance to show myself, I can do this.
Yeah.
And it just kind of keeps building this bridge to the next opportunity.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like a lot of my career and success just kind of came from just like being out there and doing it all the time.
Yeah.
And meeting the right people and kind of just making friends with everyone. I think that's such a big part of, especially the ski community. I feel like I've, run into people and have friends that, they're really talented, but they just like have a little ego, a little too much ego, and they just like very, self-absorbed, and it's just like people don't want to be around that. And it's like if you're just out there having fun, and when it gets too serious, like it's not fun anymore, and you don't ski as well. And there are times where it gets, hairy, and, like heli skiing to me is kind of, it's such a novelty. Like I've always wanted to do it my whole life, but it's like more scary than fun. And then
very high stakes.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, like after you've had like great conditions, whatever, it's kind of like the most relaxed, epic feeling ever. But I just think that like my career it wasn't just luck, it was just networking and like becoming friends with a lot of the people in the community.
Yeah, and it's like one of those things where, I mean, if you're stuck in Revelstoke for a month and a half in a camper, or a week in Argentina, or wherever you find yourself, like skiing is only a small percentage of the time that you're actually doing stuff. And then the sun goes down, it's like, hey, like, do you want to hang out?
Yeah.
And no one wants to be stuck in a refugio with like someone they don't want to be with.
Yeah.
Like I was golfing with a friend the other week, and they were kind of complaining because they were playing bad. And I was like, listen, shut the fuck up. I would like, it's harder for me to find someone I want to spend 4.5 hours with than someone who's good at golf.
Yeah.
And so as long as you're here, like having a good time, I want to spend time with you, then we're good.
Yeah.
And like, obviously with skiing, like you still have to like clip up and like make the trip worth it, so to speak.
For sure.
But you also, like, if there's the dude who's like has this huge ego of like, I'm gonna clip you, I'm gonna everything you, whatever.
Yeah.
And there's the dude who's still gonna do the same clips as them, but like you want to hang out with him, you're like, yeah, I know who I don't want with me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, and that's hilarious about golf. Like I catch myself sometimes like playing like crap, and I'm just like, You paid to be out here, dude. Just relax.
Yeah.
Just have fun.
Yeah.
It's not that serious. And that's the same thing with skiing. Like, it's not that serious. If you're crashing and you're just like not skiing well that day, just hang out for a little bit.
Yeah.
Take a breath, hang out, grab some food, just watch the rest of the session. Like, that's the thing too, is like when you have a dynamic crew that you're like getting out there filming with, sometimes it's not your feature and you're with other people, like someone's going to get a clip on it, and it doesn't always have to be you.
Yeah. Well, and like that's the thing that's always blows my mind about like big backcountry hits is like, all right, let's say there's like 3 people skiing, like maybe at most everyone will get like 3 clips.
Yeah.
Which is like, okay, cool. So we just got 30 to 50 seconds of like clips for a movie, and like we got to go do like it again somewhere.
Yeah.
But again, like it's some days don't work. Sometimes it's not your feature, and don't force things.
And that's the thing. Like when you're traveling around with your crew, it's like, if you're in an area with a lot of options, it's nice to be able to be like, oh, I'll help you with this feature if you'll help me with this for a feature for me, where it's just me hitting it. You can just hit this one, but I'll help you build it.
Yeah.
And I think that's just, the crew dynamic is like the most important thing in the backcountry.
Yeah.
Making sure everyone's like safe and aware, and also just there to like help each other out. It doesn't matter if you're getting the most footage or whatever. It's about like being a team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thinking about, your dream heli skiing rotation, or if you could be like, all right, guys, I've got a trip. It's all paid for. I've got 3 to 5 spots. Who would you want to take with you?
Oh, that's so hard. There's so many people, but I think, like, honestly, like Tim and Chesney, him and I are like, we still ski together all the time. He's one of my best buds. John Ware, would probably have to throw Tom in there too. He's a riot to be out in the backcountry. And then Carl Fosfet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds like a dream crew.
And probably like, we would get a little rowdy, but I would like to just go like client heli ski.
Yeah.
Just once, like it's really fun to push the limits and like get out there, but
sometimes you just want to enjoy it and be taken care of.
It's like, dude, I want to like, the lodge guests there, just getting like the best food, and like obviously they're paying a lot. This is if I had $1 million, but like just being a client there would be super fun.
Totally.
Yeah. And obviously we'd get a little sporty, but I feel like every time I've been heli skiing, it's like we hop right into it, and it's like, all right, we were sitting around for 4 days, like waiting for the weather.
And now it's here. Now you're on the top of the mountain. There's your line. Like,
yep. Yeah.
Like green light, go.
It's just like, oh shit. Okay.
Man. Yeah. Cause and that's like my ignorance of, watching ski movies, especially like a lot of like big mountain, like backcountry skiing, like I could do that. Like, that's fine. That's just like skiing powder.
Yeah.
But then like, it wasn't until like you see like the POV and a lot of like GoPro footage, you're like, I take it all back. Like that is, and especially to be like, you have like 1, maybe 2 shots at this, don't blow it.
Yeah. And I think that it's like, everything on camera looks smaller. In real life, it's just so much bigger and so much higher, like so much steeper, so much gnarlier. And it's like Red Bull Rampage. I don't know if you've ever been down to that, but like that stuff is incredible to watch on film. Like on TV, it's epic to watch it, but being down there and being next to some of these features, you're like, oh, this is way gnarlier.
Yeah, that's a 100-foot cliff to rocks.
Yeah.
And they're just going to like flip over it, and then, sure.
Yeah.
And there's like a feature right after it.
Yep. And I remember just the first time heli skiing, and I was like, oh yeah, just like ski these like 5-foot like runnels down to this like 30-foot cliff. And I get in the runnels, and like from the helicopter, you're so far away that everything looks like way smaller than it actually is. So you're skiing down these runnels, and like, you're like, oh, these are 15 feet tall. What size of cliff am I going into here? And he's like, my first few runs, like I just got played so hard that first time heli skiing for pleasure,
Yeah.
level one's film. And I think it was like the second or third lap, I tomahawked so hard I lost my mittens.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, like it was terrible. So it's just a whole different game. And like you said, like watching on TV, you're like, oh, that'd be so sick. But it's just like, it's more scary than it is fun until the end of the day. And then you're like, that was fun. That was epic.
Now that I know I'm safe and it's
Yeah.
over, that was a great time.
Yep. Yeah.
So what were some of your favorite places you've been, looking back at it?
I mean, Argentina was epic just for like the culture and like doing it for the first time. British Columbia has a special place in my heart, whether it be Whistler, Revelstoke, or, the backcountry skiing up there is pretty unmatched.
Yeah, like the Canadian Rockies, like,
Yeah.
because I mean, growing up in Salt Lake, like, cool, you look at the Rockies, you understand it, but it wasn't until I went to Banff where I was like, oh, this is different. Like, it's just that, but like that much more.
Yeah, it's just way bigger, and it's honestly like one of these things where it's like, I don't know, the scale is just huge. The mountains are so big up there, the backcountry is so vast, like the glaciers are humongous, and you can just like take your sled so far back. And it does add that like level of like, oh shit, like, are all of our machines running well? Like, we got to make sure we're all dialed. Because if something bad happens, it's a life flight, or you got a heli. Or I had to have my sled helied out in Whistler one year.
Wild.
Yeah, blew a motor. And but yeah, I mean, India, I got to go on this trip to India that was super random. This guy, Mark Kogelman, he was a wild one, but he was a great dude. He was starting a production company, and he sponsored all of us to go out to India and try and make a film. Because the mountains that you were in, the Himalayan mountains, like, it was kind of the most epic scenery. You get up on top of these mountains, and the guide's like, oh yeah, that's the 9th tallest mountain in the world. And so it was an awesome trip, and the whole culture, like we actually spent a few extra days like going to the Taj Mahal, and we went to Dal Lake, and like we really got to experience the culture. But this last year I did my second Japan trip, and that's just like, the culture there is just so awesome.
I've yet to hear a bad thing about Japan and just Japan winter skiing, and just, I mean, because it's like always snowing, there's always powder, and it's just magical.
Yeah. I mean, it's a epic place. The culture there's so nice. The whole, like, the culture there, like, not so much like right in Tokyo. They're a little more aggressive, just because you got to be a little aggressive.
Yeah, it's a city compared to
like 28 million people or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I've had a crazy travel story with Japan too. Like, first time I went out there, my bags got lost. The rest of the crew showed up, and I'm like, okay, like, they didn't make my second leg of the flight, so I'll stay the night here, and I'll meet you guys out there. They're like, all right, we'll bring the shuttle, because we were on the main island, but just further north. So I'm like, okay, like, I'll just pick up the shuttle, get picked up from the shuttle just right here tomorrow, same time. He's like, yeah. And I'm like waiting around. I got my bags, and then I ended up like waiting there for like an hour, and I'm like, dude, it's starting to get like late. And so I'm trying to like read the train stations, trying to figure out how to get where I need to go. And I ended up calling my friend who like lived in Japan growing up. His dad was a mission president in Japan.
Like Jeff Evans?
Jeff Evans. Yeah. And shout out Jeff. Like, he like fully did a screenshot of like all the trains that I had to get. And he's like, just heads up, like, to make all these, you have to make every train. Because it was like 4 transfers, I think.
Yeah.
Or like 3 transfers, 4 trains. And I'm just like running
all your ski gear, like,
all,
okay,
like,
cool.
Huge ski bag, huge duffel, got my ski boots like clanking around. And I ride the train to the Tokyo station, and it's just packed in there. And it's like deck 320. And I'm like, okay, that's got to be on the, third floor. And I go up and it's on the sixth floor. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
just running around. And I don't know, same thing, like no smartphone. Like I don't know what the hell I'm doing.
Yeah.
And then by the last transfer I had to make, all of like the kiosks to buy tickets were closed, or like the little counters. And so I had to go to like a kiosk and it was only in Japanese. And luckily this guy just like fully came and helped me out. Like I was like, I need to go to Miyoko, and he not a lick of English. And so I'm just like, Miyoko Kogan.
He's like,
And yeah, and
there you go.
I just like give him money, and then like it's just me, him, and two other people on this train. And then the other two people get off, and then it's just him and me. And then he has to get off, and he's like, three, he's just doing three. And I'm like, wait, like 3 stops from now or starting,
We're like,
and I'm
this next one,
yeah,
is
yeah.
this one? Like,
yeah, it was such a nightmare. And I ended up just like getting off on the last one. It was the last stop, and like no taxi. I thought I was going to have to sleep in my ski bag. Like, and finally a taxi shows up, and it was just, I don't know, just the runaround, the riffraff of ski travel.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of crazy stories. Yeah.
And I love that there's like the common theme through a lot of your like late skiing is like forefront. I mean, I feel like Dave supported you so much of your journey and then through it all. But I mean, I can't imagine what it's like to have a company be like, hey, it's like time for your pro model. I mean, talk to me how that conversation went and like the ski that you wanted to build.
Yeah. So Forefront's just been like my number one sponsor support. And so I started skiing for them when I was, 18, just out of high school. And they got me right on the program. They were fired up. They didn't pay me the first year, but I could get the skis that I needed. And I actually picked up my summer job working for them building skis.
Cool.
And that was a dream. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, sick.
Even when I can't ski, I'm still skiing.
Yeah. Yep. And so I was doing that in the summer, and then like they were supporting me through that. They were, shelling out like some film budget to get me out there and film with, filmers and the crew, and get me in their films every year. And I feel like I was just like bit undiscovered at that point too. And so they like just at least having like some sort of segment to be able to like post about it or the internet could see.
Yep.
And then after a few years of like building skis there, I became like the production manager. So I was building every ski that came out of the white room. And there was one year where, so we were producing the Wiley Miller's pro model, and then the Devastator, and then the Renegade.
Okay.
And so those were the 3 skis that I would get. But the Wiley, I never really loved that ski. I mean, it served its purpose. Like it was a good ski, but
just not for you.
The Devastator came out, and it was super fun being a part of the R&D, like building all these prototypes, go out and try them. And it was so cool to like be on the side of like, oh, you can build a bunch of skis and then go test them. And then like,
especially to know like, oh, it was built this way because I built it.
Yep.
That's why it feels this way.
Yep.
Got it.
And the Devastator I really liked, but it was just like kind of an in-between size for me. Like it was a 184 and then a 194, and it wasn't quite as wide as I wanted, but I loved that ski. And then the Renegade was just like an ultimate POW Slayer, but it didn't have a twin tip, and I liked to land backwards a lot.
Yeah.
So there was the start of one season, and we had some leftover Renegade cores, and that was a ski that I was building in-house. And I had just put an old tip block from an old EHP on the Renegade, as the tail, and built this. I called it the Thayne at first. And it was kind of funny because the owner was out of town, Matt Sturbenz. And he came back, and I was riding him up at Alta, and he looks down because we had some Devastator top sheets laying around, and he's like,
That's not a
the hell are
Devastator.
those? Like, those aren't Devastators. And I was like, yeah, I might have made a ski while you were gone. And he was like, do you like them? And I was like, dude, they're sick. Like, they're the best ski for me. And he's like, dude, let's run them as production. So it's more so like asking for forgiveness than
Yeah.
like asking if I can get
I
one.
love that.
And so it went into production that next year, and we did that. You know, the Renethane, we called it the Inthane, but it was pretty much a Renegade with a twin tip.
Cool.
But during the second year, I started designing my own full, like fully my own pro model.
Cool.
And at that time, we were selling the company, and Jason Leventhal, who started Line Skis and J Skis, he acquired Forefront. And as I'm building this ski, he's like seeing all the drawings, and he's like, dude, what the hell is a ski? And I was like, dude, I promise you, like, just let me build this. Like, if the samples suck, like, we can talk about it and we can go a different direction. And I loved him. He didn't get to ski the samples very much, but we just like put him in production. And then I think it was 2 years later, we were at Free Skier Test in Aspen, and we were on like the big free, the big free ride line.
Yep.
So we were skiing my ski, every ski in that category. And I was skiing with Jason, and he was like, dude, this ski is awesome. And so it's fun to like see that kind of come full circle too. But
especially have a ski like that. I mean, it's one thing to be like, oh, cool, like you're a pro, like, because skier will give you a ski, like that conversation being like, okay, so I actually had a ski that I really wanted to build and I knew that I wanted, so I did it. And then everybody also liked it.
Yeah.
And then it's also going to have my name on it too.
Yeah.
I mean, that's got to be such a cool like chain of events to like, and then also have that validation where, oh, we're going to put a head to head against everything in Aspen. And people are like, oh, actually, like, this thing rips.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it was such a fun, like, honestly, building skis was like a dream of mine. And then like being able to have my own ski and build it in house, and like, it was a dream. Right. And like at the Free Skier Test, like it won, ski of the year for like 3 years in a row in its category. So that was like huge for me.
Wow.
And a lot of the other skis that I was building at the time. And so it was like, it was fun to make like a really good product. And I had a great crew that we were working with in the summer. But when Jason bought it, the production that I was doing moved to his factory up in Quebec.
Okay.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. But it was cool to like go up there and see the factory up there, because it's an old mining town and they don't mine up there anymore. And so like this ski and snowboard manufacturer up there, they like, I'm pretty sure they employ like more than like majority of the town.
Yeah.
It's
Everyone's just
kind of
making
cool.
skis of that.
Yeah, you go in there and there's like, older ladies like grinding skis. And it's like such a cool scene.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously you've been like an Alta ripper ever since, I mean, forever. What are your favorite places to mom around on a good powder day?
At Alta?
Yeah.
You'll have to keep an eye out for me.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
No, I mean, that's what makes Alta great. It's like, oh, we're done here. We're done at Catherine's. Cool. Let's go over to Wildcat. Oh, let's go back over here. Let's go over there. And it's hard to hate.
Wildcat's my favorite lift.
Wildcat does always remind me of you every time I'm on it.
Yeah.
Because there was one day, I can't think of the name of the jump, but it's like the one that's like is off to the left, like it's like through the trees. And there's another one of those moments where like, oh, I'll do a 3 over. You're like, I'll do a switch road 5. I'm like, okay, sick. Sounds great.
Yeah, I mean there's so many, like I depending on the snow year, I can find new hits every year, and I've been skiing there for 2 decades.
Yeah.
And that place has a like special place in my heart and always will. And I love Snowbird to death, but Alta's got my heart for sure.
No, I totally agree.
Yeah.
No, man, it's cool to see. I mean, especially such like a hometown hero, like continue, like still doing the thing, still have all the validation, not even just from like skiing perfection perspective, but also making ski perspective. It's like, it's cool to see how much skiing has enveloped your life, but you've been able to love and champion all of it and come out like on top of all of it.
Yeah.
So it's cool to see, and like especially hearing more of the story and how it's kind of like all worked out, but it's all also been of you showing up, whether you have to go through random Japanese train stations or Argentinian airports to get there.
It's been a long shit show for sure.
Yeah.
And I think that I just like when social media like kind of took over, in a sense, like I realized like, okay, like I don't want this to like become my personality. Like skiing was my, like that's what I lived for. But as I grew older, it's like I don't want to just promote myself all the time on social media. I've never been that way. And that's when I kind of started to shift into like becoming an arborist.
Yeah.
And so it's like I still have tons of fun doing it in the winter, but like I'm good to just like hang it up and, you know, get Jones in for next year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's still, I mean, it's still a joy and a passion. It like, and it's fun to talk to so many people who have gone through like the motions of like a skier. And even it reminds me of like a conversation with Julian Carr where he got to the point where he like saw people exiting the game, realized they couldn't do it forever. He's like, oh, what's next? Like, cause it can't be this. So what is it? And like, thankfully he's like, did the whole, discreet thing. He's done his Bronco stuff. He's done the Cirque stuff and like just done really well. But it's those people that kind of realize like, this isn't something that can last forever. Yeah. But there's something else that needs that. But it'll always be part of you. Like, oh, it's not like you're not going to get an Alta Pass this year.
Oh, for sure. No, I'll always ski, and I can't wait to be the cool dad that's still chucking backies and showing the kids the big hits.
Who are some of the skiers you either watch the most, ski with the most, or kind of like this up and coming generation that you're stoked for?
There's so many. They like this kid Tristan Lilly. He's an Alta kid. He's a Maynard. He's got such a good head on his shoulders and such a good skier. And you know, him and his girlfriend Piper won Kings and Queens of Corbett's last year.
No way.
Wow. Yeah, that was a party after that one. They're great. I mean, it's just good to see like, you know, people keeping the culture alive.
Yeah.
And Andrew Bird, Jazz Vital, he runs this thing called Drink Butter. Yeah. And he started doing a magazine and like a film. Michael Churchio, this kid Max, like it's just a good vibe up there, and I think that it's like skiing's in a good place. Can't say that I love like the parachute pants, but you know, fashion fads will come and go.
Yeah, it's fun to see like those moments where you were once like that up and coming kid, or you were the ones like, oh, these kids are wearing skinny pants now. What is this? Or like, but it's fun to see how it like just keeps continually going. Like, where one person is like, you know, like that's not me. Like, I'm still gonna be on Wildcat every weekend, but I'm not flying into Japan and Argentina and Revelstoke. But then you see the kids. It's like, oh, guess what, dude? I just got my first trip to here. You're like, make sure you get your train tickets figured out. Make sure you have your travel, and like it's just kind of this process that keeps going.
Yeah, and I think with like where we're at with technology now, it makes it a lot easier. Like, we went to Japan this last year with my wife Mallory and big group of friends, and it was like, oh, you can just like when you have Wi-Fi, just like Google Maps every train you need to hit and when it's going to be there, and you know, instead of like trying to like translate through everyone else.
Yeah, asking random strangers and hope they can maybe understand you, and they hit you with like a 3 and like 3 what?
Yeah.
Ugh, love it.
Yeah, but it's been an awesome ride. You know, I met so many cool people, and like I wouldn't trade it for anything, but it's like, dude, like starting this new venture of starting my own arborist company has been like a huge growing point for me. And like, it's funny because like I'm weirdly afraid of heights, and the older I get, like the worse it gets, but like I've had to like just overcome that fear, but it's like me just like following adrenaline. Yeah.
As long as you follow the adrenaline, that's the path that you know, whether it's on top of a tree or on top of a cliff or on top of or just dropped off of a heli.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, and it's always been like skateboarding, rollerblading. Like I've, you know, kind of done it all.
Always a junkie for it.
Yeah.
Well, Thayne, before we wrap up, I want to ask you the 2 questions I always ask everybody at the end of each episode. Number one, if you could have someone on the Small Lake City podcast and hear more of their story and what they're up to, who would you want to hear from?
Oh man. I think my brother Jesse would be a pretty good one.
Yeah. No, I've been talking to him.
I know that's
Says like
cliche.
no.
Shout out my brother, but he's got another crazy story just in a different realm.
Well, and like that's the wild thing too, because like I know Jesse very well, and it was fun to see him go down this like ultra trail running, nutrition, coaching avenue, and like I like didn't really get it for a while, but my girlfriend's a big runner, like very active in the running community, and so it's like brought me into it more, and like now it's made him appreciate more. So it's like I've had a couple like DM conversations, I'm like, let's do it, and he's like, oh well, does this work? And then like so I can get Jesse on it.
Yeah, Jesse. I mean, my whole family they're all pretty unique.
Yeah,
my siblings. I'm trying to think of someone else outside of my family circle, but I mean, my brother's a pianist, artist, general contractor. He has that piano bike that's down at Farmers Market Equity. Yep. My other brother's a welder. My sister's like a river guide for 11 years, and
such cool people.
I just feel like I was so fortunate to grow up, but I think like the world could hear about a little more about the Rich family.
Oh, there's so many unique stories and so many good people.
Yeah.
And then lastly, if people want to follow you more or hear what you're up to, or if they need some help with their trees, what's the best place to find you?
You can find me at Alta in the wintertime.
Yeah.
I ski up there every day I'm around. But social media, just Thayne Rich and Rooted Tree and Stump SLC is my arborist page on Instagram, but just Rooted Tree and Stump. And if you need your trees looked at, I do free estimates, and just give me a call, shoot me a text.
If you need any tree help, if you see this guy ripping around Alta, go buy him a beer.
Yeah,
but
let's take a lap. Let's freaking do it.
Oh yeah, no, thanks, Thayne.
Yeah,
it's fun to hear your story. Keep crushing, new phase of life, but proud of you. Keep crushing it.
Thanks, Eric.